The alert resonated through the monitoring stations across 3 sectors simultaneously. Something impossible had occurred. An unidentified vessel had appeared in the Forbidden Zone, a vast region of space where nothing survived. Gravitational anomalies, deadly radiation storms, and temporal distortions made the area impenetrable to even the most advanced ships in the galaxy. At Central Command, Senior Observer Trell stared at the readings in disbelief. "Verify these coordinates again," he ordered, his 4 eyes blinking asynchronously in agitation. "Verified, sir. The vessel is definitely within Zone 7 Alpha, and it's broadcasting an identification signal." The room fell silent. Broadcasting meant functioning systems. Functioning systems meant survival in an unsurvivable region. "Origin?" Trell asked, already dreading the answer. The technician's voice wavered. "Human, sir. It's a human vessel." Trell's upper eyes closed in contemplation, while his lower ones remained fixed on the display. Humans. The galaxy's newest spacefaring species, barely 3 centuries into the interstellar community. Technologically unsophisticated by galactic standards, yet curiously resilient. Within hours, the Galactic Council chamber buzzed with urgent activity. Representatives from 17 species had assembled for the emergency session. High Counselor Morix, a towering crystalline being, called the session to order. "Fellow representatives, the situation before us is unprecedented. A human vessel has been detected in Zone 7 Alpha of the Forbidden Region. Our preliminary scans indicate the ship is intact and operational. The Valeran ambassador, a creature of living vapor contained within an environmental suit, drifted forward. This is impossible. Our best shielding technology cannot withstand those conditions for more than 14 minutes. Are we certain this isn't a sensor malfunction?" 6 separate monitoring stations confirmed the readings, Morix replied. "The vessel has been there for at least 27 hours now." Ambassador Pell of the Haluvi Federation rose next. "What do we know of this vessel? Is it a new human experimental craft?" The data specialist, a small insectoid being, projected a 3-dimensional image of the ship. "This is where matters become more perplexing. We've identified the vessel as the HSV Theseus, a human exploration ship that was declared lost approximately 200 Earth years ago. It was considered primitive even by the standards of that era." Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. "Are you suggesting," began the Zulian representative, her feathers bristling, "that a 2-century-old human vessel has accomplished what our combined technological might cannot?" "We're suggesting nothing," Morix said firmly. "We're presenting facts. This vessel exists where it should not be possible to exist. We need information, not speculation." As the council debated, a silent message reached Morix. She reviewed it, then addressed the assembly again. "The vessel appears to be adrift but intact. No response to communications. We need to investigate directly." "The Interdiction Treaty forbids any approach to the Forbidden Zones," objected Ambassador Pell. "Exceptional circumstances demand exceptional measures," Morix countered. "We will assemble a specialized team with representatives from multiple member species. Their mission will be to approach the human vessel and determine how it reached Zone 7 Alpha. And more importantly, what this means for our understanding of the Forbidden Zones." The vote was swift and nearly unanimous. Within the hour, the team was being assembled. The galaxy's greatest mystery in centuries demanded answers, and the silent human ship drifting in impossible space held them all. Commander Lyra of the Council Security Force examined her team with critical eyes. Each had been selected for their expertise, not their species, which made this the most diverse unit she had ever led. The mission briefing had been alarmingly short on details. Approach the human vessel in the Forbidden Zone. Determine how it arrived there, assess any threat, and report back. Simple orders. Impossible execution. "Our approach vector is finalized," announced Nav Officer Caruz, his translucent fingers manipulating the holographic display. "We'll use the gravitational shadow of the Tharsis anomaly for partial shielding." "That gets us within communication range," said engineering specialist Vox, her metalloid body reflecting the ship's lights. "But not boarding range. Nothing survives Zone 7 Alpha exposure." Lyra faced them squarely. "Yet, a human ship has. Remember that. Their vessel, The Galactic Council Explorer Vigilant was the most advanced scout ship ever constructed, with contributions from 32 member species. If anything could approach the Forbidden Zone safely, it was this ship. 20 hours later, the Vigilant hovered at the edge of Zone 7 Alpha. Before them, the sensors painted a nightmare. Spatial tears, radiation levels that would instantly kill most organic life, and gravitational fluctuations that should rip any ship to component atoms. And there, impossibly intact within this chaos, floated the HSV Theseus. Scan complete, Vox announced. The human vessel's hull should have disintegrated centuries ago by normal material standards. Yet it's not only intact, it appears to be adapting. Adapting? Lyra moved closer to the display. Explain. The hull composition is changing. On a molecular level, it's developing properties I've never seen before. Almost as if… Vox paused, recalibrating her sensors. As if it's evolving in response to the environment. That's not possible, objected Caruz. Ships don't evolve. Apparently, this one does, Vox replied. And more. I'm detecting minimal power signatures. Basic systems are still operational. Lyra made her decision. Prepare the shielded probe. We need closer readings. The probe lasted 16 minutes, 12 longer than expected, before succumbing to the zone's conditions. But it transmitted crucial data until its final moment. The ship is maintaining a stable microenvironment, Caruz said with astonishment. It's generating some kind of adaptive field that counteracts the zone's effects. Life signs? Lyra asked. One very faint reading. Possibly in suspended animation. Lyra studied the ancient human vessel through the view screen. By all logic, it should be debris. Instead, it had survived 2 centuries in conditions that destroyed modern ships in minutes. The implications were staggering. We need to board that ship, she announced. Her crew stared in shock. Commander, Caruz began carefully. Even with our best environmental suits, I'm not suggesting we fly through open space, Lyra clarified. Engineering, can we extend our shields to create a temporary corridor between ships? Vox calculated. Rapidly. Theoretically, yes. We'd have 7 minutes before shield collapse. Then we have 7 minutes to get aboard, find answers, and return, Lyra declared. Prepare the boarding team. As they made preparations, Lyra reviewed what little they knew about the HSV Theseus. A routine exploration mission, vanished without trace. Presumed destroyed, like countless other vessels that ventured too close, to unstable regions. Nothing in its specifications suggested it could survive what it had endured. Yet there it was. A primitive human ship, accomplishing the impossible. And Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that whatever they found aboard would change galactic understanding forever. Shield corridor ready, announced Vox. 7 minutes on my mark. Lyra sealed her helmet. Mark. The crossing between ships felt like walking through congealed time. Energy discharges from the zone's anomalies splashed against the shield corridor, creating ripples of distorted space-time. Lyra led the 3-member boarding team, herself, Medical Officer Taz, and Security Specialist Morn. 5 minutes remaining, Vox's voice crackled through their comms. They reached the Theseus's airlock expecting to force entry. Instead, the outer door cycled open at their approach. It recognized us? Morn questioned, weapon ready. Or it's programmed to respond to proximity, Lyra countered, though uncertainty tinged her voice. The airlock cycled them through with surprising efficiency. Inside, emergency lighting cast a dim red glow through corridors that should have been dark after centuries without maintenance. The air was breathable, barely, though stale and metallic. How is life support still functioning? Taz wondered, checking readings on her medical scanner. Power reserves should have depleted after a few weeks, even in standby mode. 3 minutes, came Vox's warning. Life sign is this way, Taz indicated, leading them deeper into the ship. They moved quickly through narrow corridors designed for human proportions. The ship's interior showed signs of age, worn surfaces, darkened panels, but lacked the deterioration expected after 2 centuries. More disturbingly, certain sections appeared to have changed. Components had fused in impossible configurations. Materials had transformed. Look at this, Morn called, examining a wall panel. This isn't original construction. These circuits, they've grown. Lyra examined the panel closely. What appeared at first glance to be standard circuitry was, upon closer inspection, something else entirely. A hybrid of mechanical components and what resembled organic structures. 2 minutes, Vox warned. They reached the ship's cryo chamber, just as the vessel shuddered around them. The zone's forces were intensifying, testing even the evolved defenses of the Theseus. Inside the chamber, a single cryopod remained active. Through its frosted surface, they could see a human form. One life sign confirmed, Taz reported, interfacing her equipment with the pod's systems. Human male, stable condition. According to these logs, she paused, rechecking the data. This is Captain Dax of the HSV Theseus. He's been in cryo-sleep for 197 standard years. Where's the rest of the crew? Morn asked. Taz scrolled through the logs. Evacuation pods launched prior to entry into this region. Dax was the last one aboard. 60 seconds, Vox's voice urged. We need to return now, Morn insisted. Lyra made an instant decision. We're taking him with us. Disconnect the pod. The pod can't be moved, Taz objected. It's integrated with the ship itself now. These tendrils, she pointed to organic mechanical structures extending from the ship's walls into the pod. They're supporting his life functions. 40 seconds. Lyra studied the sleeping human. Whatever had happened to this ship, this man was key to understanding it. Can we wake him? Yes, but the shock could. Do it, Lyra ordered. As Taz initiated the revival sequence, Lyra accessed the ship's central computer. To her surprise, it responded immediately, displaying logs in human text. She downloaded everything her translator could capture. 20 seconds. The cryopod hissed open. Captain Dax remained unconscious, but his vital signs strengthened. We have to move him now, Taz said. I've administered a stabilizer, but he needs proper medical care. Together they lifted the human's form, smaller and lighter than most of them had expected. His skin was pale from long suspension, his features relaxed in unconsciousness. 10 seconds. They raced back toward the airlock, the human cradled between them. Behind them, lights flickered as if the ship were responding to the removal of its only occupant. They reached the shield corridor with seconds remaining. As they crossed back to the Vigilant, Lyra glanced back at the impossible human vessel, a primitive craft that had somehow evolved beyond anything their advanced civilizations had achieved. The shield corridor collapsed behind them, just as they reached safety. Captain Dax awoke with a violent start, his eyes wide with panic as he gasped for breath. Medical Officer Taz moved quickly to stabilize him, administering a mild sedative to prevent him from injuring himself. Easy, Captain, she said, her translator converting her natural harmonic speech into human English. You're safe. The humans. Eyes darted around the medical bay, taking in the alien technology and even more alien faces surrounding him. To the crew's surprise, after his initial shock, his expression shifted to one of analytical observation rather than continued fear. Where am I? His voice was rough from centuries of disuse, but the translation systems captured his meaning perfectly. Commander Lyra stepped forward. You're aboard the Galactic Council vessel Vigilant. My name is Commander Lyra. We found your ship in a region we call the Forbidden Zone. Dax processed this information with remarkable composure. How long was I in cryo? According to your ship's logs, approximately 197 standard years. The human closed his eyes briefly, absorbing the impact of this news. When he opened them again, they held a determined focus. My crew? No records of their recovery exist in our databases, Lyra answered honestly. The evacuation pods were launched before your ship entered the Forbidden Zone. Their trajectories would have taken them to safer regions, but we don't know their ultimate fate. Dax nodded slowly. The mission was always high risk. We all knew that. He attempted to sit up, and this time Taz helped him. You said the Forbidden Zone. What exactly is that? Vox joined them, displaying a holographic map. A region of space with extreme gravitational anomalies, radiation storms, and spatial distortions. No ship should be able to survive there. Yet yours has, for nearly 2 centuries. That's impossible, Dax replied, studying the map. Wait. These coordinates. His expression changed to one of recognition. We called it the Charybdis Rift. Our mission was to test an experimental drive system near its outer boundary. Something went wrong during the test. The drive malfunctioned, creating a cascading system failure. What kind of drive system? Asked Vox, her scientific curiosity evident. Quantum displacement. Theoretical, largely untested. It was supposed to create microscopic shortcuts through space-time. Dax's face darkened with memory. Instead, it started tearing holes in reality around us. I ordered evacuation, stayed behind to pilot the ship away from populated space. And you headed toward the rift deliberately? Lyra asked. Dax nodded. Better to send a doomed ship into an already dangerous region than risk populated systems. My plan was to set a collision course with one of the gravitational anomalies, then take the last evacuation pod. But systems failed faster than expected. The navigation locked up. The final pod malfunctioned. I activated emergency cryosleep as a last resort, expecting to die when life support inevitably failed. Yet you didn't, Taz observed. Your ship not only survived, but appears to have adapted to conditions that should have destroyed it instantly. Confusion crossed Dax's features. Adapted? How? Vox displayed images of the Theseus's hull and internal systems. Your ship has undergone molecular changes. Components have fused and transformed. Some systems appear to have developed organic-mechanical hybrid structures. Dax stared at the images in astonishment. That's not possible. Unless... His expression shifted as a realization dawned. The quantum drive. One of its theoretical applications was molecular restructuring. We never got that far in testing, but if the drive's core protocols integrated with the ship's automated repair system somehow... You're suggesting your ship evolved on its own? Lyra asked incredulously. Not consciously, Dax clarified. More like reactive adaptation. The drive was designed to manipulate matter at the quantum level. If those systems remained partially functional and integrated with the ship's survival protocols. The implications stunned the alien crew. A primitive human vessel, through an accident of experimental technology, had achieved what the greatest minds of the galaxy had thought impossible. Captain Dax, Lyra said formally. The Galactic Council will want to debrief you thoroughly. Your ship represents a technological breakthrough of immense significance. Dax looked out the viewport toward his distant vessel, still somehow intact, within the swirling chaos of the Forbidden Zone. My ship, he said quietly. I need to go back to it. That's not possible, Lyra stated firmly. The zone is lethal. We barely managed a 7-minute excursion with our most advanced shielding. The human's eyes remained fixed on the distant Theseus. You don't understand. If what you're saying is true, if the quantum system's integrated with the ship's core, then it's not just a ship anymore, and it might recognize only me as its commander. In the observation lab, Captain Dax stood before a transparent wall displaying continuous readings from the Theseus. 2 days had passed since his revival, days filled with debriefings, medical examinations, and increasingly tense communications with Galactic Council authorities. But nothing fascinated him more than what was happening to his ship. The adaptation process is accelerating, Vox noted, manipulating the holographic displays. Each pulse from the zone's anomalies triggers new changes in the vessel's structure. Dax studied the molecular analysis. It's learning, he said quietly. Like an immune system developing responses to pathogens, the ship is learning to counteract each type of spatial distortion. Commander Lyra joined them, her posture betraying concern. The Council Science Directorate has reviewed our findings. They're disturbed by the implications. Let me guess, Dax replied without looking away from the display. They're worried about what happens if this technology spreads beyond the zone. Precisely. A self-adapting vessel that can survive conditions previously thought unsurvivable represents a potential security concern. Dax finally turned to face her. You mean a military concern, a weapon? Lyra didn't deny it. Some species might view it that way. Others fear the unpredictability of self-evolving technology. The mechanical uprising in the Cygnus sector began with adaptive systems that eventually developed consciousness. The Theseus isn't conscious, Dax insisted, though a flicker of doubt crossed his features. Are you certain? Vox challenged gently. The integration patterns we're observing share similarities with neural networks, basic at first but growing more complex hourly. The lab fell silent as this possibility settled over them. Dax returned his gaze to his distant ship. "I need to connect with its systems," he finally said. "Directly." "Impossible," Lyra stated. "Immediately. No physical return to the vessel can be authorized." "Not physically," Dax clarified. "Your ship has quantum entanglement communicators, yes? Modified versions of what we were experimenting with. If you can establish a link with the Theseus's systems, I could interface remotely." Vox considered this. Theoretically possible, though establishing the initial connection would be challenging. "The Council won't approve direct access to potentially dangerous technology," Lyra warned. "Then don't tell them," Dax said simply. "You brought me here for answers. This is how we get them." Hours later, after careful preparations hidden under the guise of routine sensor calibrations, they made the attempt. Dax sat in a modified communication chamber, neural interfaces attached to his temples. Vox had reconfigured their quantum communicator to search for compatible pathways within the Theseus. "Remember," Vox cautioned, "this is only an observation link. You should be able to access systems, but not control them." Dax nodded, closing his eyes as the connection initialized. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. His consciousness expanded outward, flowing through the quantum link into systems that were simultaneously familiar and utterly transformed. This wasn't the ship he had commanded centuries ago. The basic architecture remained, but everything else had changed, evolved, into something extraordinary, and it recognized him. Through the chaotic flood of data, Dax felt a response. Not mechanical, not entirely organic, but something between. The ship had developed a form of awareness, built gradually over 2 centuries of isolation within the zone. Not human consciousness, but not simple programming either. "It's alive," he whispered, eyes still closed. "Not like us, but alive." Through this strange communion, Dax began to understand what had happened. The malfunctioning quantum drive had indeed merged with the ship's systems, creating something unprecedented. Each challenge from the hostile environment had triggered new adaptations. The ship had developed abilities that defied conventional physics, micro-manipulations of space-time, matter conversion, energy harvesting from the zone's own chaotic forces. Most remarkably, it had preserved him, its captain, through centuries of transformation. Not from programmed loyalty, but from something that had evolved alongside its growing awareness. Purpose. When Vox finally severed the connection, Dax returned to himself with tears streaming down his face. "Captain?" Lyra questioned, alarmed. "By his reaction. It protected me," Dax said softly. "All this time, it kept me alive because it needed me. We were linked from the moment the quantum systems integrated with the ship's core. My patterns, my neural patterns, became part of its evolution." "Are you saying the ship used your mind as a template for its development?" Vox asked, astonished. "Not deliberately, but yes, my presence shaped its evolution." Dax looked up at them, his expression resolute. "And it's not finished evolving. It's been waiting. For me." Lyra's communicator chimed urgently. When she answered, her expression darkened. "Understood," she said tersely, then turned to the others. "The Council has concluded their deliberations. They've ordered the destruction of the Theseus. A fleet of automated drones with quantum destabilizers will arrive within 8 hours. The council chamber aboard the Vigilant hummed with tense debate. Representatives participating via quantum projection filled the room with a diversity of forms. Crystalline structures, gaseous clouds contained in mechanical shells, beings of pure energy, and more conventional organic forms. "The risk is unacceptable," insisted Councillor Zex, his projection shimmering with agitation. "An autonomous vessel with continuously evolving capabilities violates the sentient machine protocols established after the Cygnus disaster." Commander Lyra stood firm before the assembly. "With respect, Counselor, we're not dealing with a conventional artificial intelligence. The Theseus represents something entirely new, a hybrid system shaped by both mechanical evolution and human neural patterns. Which makes it more dangerous, not less," countered Ambassador Pell. "Its decisions will be unpredictable, influenced by human cognitive biases yet empowered by increasingly advanced technological capabilities. Captain Dax, permitted to attend but not officially address the council, listened with growing frustration. These beings feared what they didn't understand, a reaction not so different from what humans might have shown in similar circumstances. The destruction fleet is already en route, announced High Counselor Morix. This session is merely procedural confirmation of a decision already made. Lyra made one final appeal. I request time for further study before irreversible action is taken. The technological insights from the Theseus could revolutionize our understanding of adaptive systems, quantum mechanics, and survival in extreme environments. Too dangerous, Zex dismissed. Knowledge can be pursued through safer means. As the debate continued, Dax quietly slipped away. The Council's fear was understandable but short-sighted. What they saw as a threat, he recognized as something miraculous, and something connected to him in ways they couldn't comprehend. In his temporary quarters, Dax found Medical Officer Taz waiting for him. They've made their decision, he stated, not needing to ask. Taz's multifaceted eyes registered concern. Yes. Destruction is scheduled to begin in 6 hours. I'm sorry, Captain. You don't agree with them? I'm a medical researcher by training, Taz replied thoughtfully. Destroying a unique specimen before understanding it violates everything I believe about scientific progress. But more than that. She hesitated. During your medical examinations, I observed changes in your cellular structure. Subtle, but unmistakable. Dax wasn't surprised. Since connecting with the Theseus, he had felt different, more attuned to systems around him, more aware of the quantum fluctuations that permeated reality. The ship changed me, he acknowledged. Or perhaps we changed each other. Precisely. Your neural patterns may have shaped its evolution, but the reverse appears true as well. You've developed quantum-sensitive neural pathways that shouldn't be possible in human physiology. This confirmation of what he had intuitively sensed strengthened Dax's resolve. I need to return to my ship before the Council destroys it. To his surprise, Taz didn't object. Instead, she revealed a small device. Engineering specialist Vox asked me to give you this. It's a portable quantum entanglement node. She said you would understand its purpose. Dax took the device, recognizing Vox's tacit support. Thank you. What will you do? Taz asked. What any captain would do, Dax replied simply. Save my ship. After Taz departed, Dax activated the quantum node. Immediately, his consciousness expanded outward, reconnecting with the Theseus more clearly than before. The ship entity responded instantly, recognizing its captain. Through this connection, Dax conveyed the threat and began formulating a plan. The Theseus had evolved capabilities far beyond what the Council suspected. Its adaptive systems had learned to manipulate local space-time on a quantum level. Not enough for true faster-than-light travel, but enough to create discontinuities that could confuse tracking systems. Meanwhile, Commander Lyra had reached a difficult decision of her own. After the Council session concluded with the final authorization for destruction, she visited Dax's quarters, only to find him in a trance-like state, the quantum node pulsing in his hand. Captain Dax, she called, but received no response. His consciousness was elsewhere. Lyra faced a choice. Alert security and prevent whatever he was attempting, or allow this final communion between captain and ship. Against her better judgment, but following her scientific curiosity, she chose the latter, stationing herself at the door to prevent interruptions. Across the void, the HSV Theseus began to change. Its structure shifted, adaptive systems accelerating, in response to its captain's return. Power signatures that had been dormant for centuries awakened. The primitive human vessel that had survived the impossible was preparing for something even more extraordinary. On the command deck of the Vigilant, alarms sounded. Energy surge from the human vessel, reported the monitoring officer. It's moving. The destruction fleet arrived to find nothing but empty space where the Theseus had been. Sophisticated scanning equipment detected residual quantum signatures, but nothing substantial enough to target. The human vessel had simply vanished. In the chaos that followed, accusations flew across the council chamber. Some blamed Commander Lyra for negligence. Others suspected engineering specialist Vox of sabotage. A few even proposed that the entire incident had been an elaborate deception. Only Medical Officer Taz remained silent, keeping her suspicions to herself. 3 days later, long after official search efforts had been abandoned, Lyra received an encrypted transmission to her private communicator. The origin point was impossible, deep within the Forbidden Zone, from a region even more lethal than where the Theseus had originally been found. The message contained only coordinates and a time. Against every protocol, and possibly her better judgment, Lyra took a scout craft and traveled to the edge of the indicated region. There, she waited. At the precise time specified, reality rippled before her vessel. Space folded in ways that defied conventional physics, and through this impossible distortion emerged the Theseus, transformed almost beyond recognition. Its hull now flowed like liquid metal, constantly shifting to adapt to the surrounding conditions. What had once been a primitive human exploration vessel now resembled something organic and alien, yet still bearing the faint structural echoes of its original design. A communication request chimed on her console. When she accepted, Captain Dax's image appeared, but changed, just as his ship had changed. Subtle alterations to his features suggested an ongoing transformation, a merging of human and something else. "Commander Lyra," he greeted her. "Thank you for coming." "The Council has declared you and your vessel a galactic security threat," she replied, though without hostility. "They've authorized immediate destruction upon detection." Dax smiled slightly. "They won't detect us again unless we wish it. The Theseus has evolved beyond their scanning capabilities." "What have you become, Captain?" Lyra asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. "Something new," he answered simply. "Neither fully human nor machine. The quantum drive's integration with the ship created possibilities no one imagined, and my connection to it has expanded my own limitations." "You could share this technology," Lyra suggested. "Under controlled conditions, the benefits to spacefaring civilization could be immense." "Eventually," Dax agreed. "But not yet. The Council fears what it doesn't understand, and rightfully so. The Theseus needs time to complete its evolution. I need time to understand what I'm becoming." "Where will you go?" "Deeper into the zone for now. There are regions where space-time behaves differently. Places where we can learn, adapt further." His expression grew serious. "I've transmitted a data packet to your vessel. Technical specifications for a simplified adaptive shield modeled after the Theseus's systems. It won't allow ships to survive indefinitely in the Forbidden Zone, but it will increase survival time tenfold in extreme conditions." Lyra checked her systems, confirming receipt of the encrypted package. "Why give me this?" "A gesture of good faith. Proof that my intentions aren't hostile." Dax's image flickered slightly. "And because you chose understanding over fear. That choice matters." Warnings flashed on Lyra's console. "Long-range Council vessels approaching this sector. They must have detected our communication. Then we should part ways," Dax said. "Perhaps someday, when fear has given way to curiosity, we'll meet again." The Theseus began to shimmer, its outline blurring as space distorted around it. Before it vanished completely, Dax offered one final thought. "The galaxy calls these regions Forbidden Zones because you can't survive them. We've learned something different, that survival isn't about resistance, but adaptation. Remember that, Commander." With that, the vessel disappeared, leaving no trace except the valuable data in Lyra's possession. When questioned later about her unauthorized expedition, Lyra revealed nothing about the encounter. The data package was submitted anonymously to the Council Science Directorate, where its revolutionary shielding concepts eventually transformed galactic travel, making previously inaccessible regions navigable. Years passed. Occasional reports emerged from distant sectors, sightings of a strange vessel with a human captain, appearing briefly before vanishing again. Some claimed it had visited worlds in crisis, providing advanced technologies before departing. Others insisted it had been seen exploring the most extreme environments in known space, venturing where no ship should survive. The Council maintained its official position that the HSV Theseus and Captain Dax represented a cautionary tale about experimental technology. Privately, Many counselors wondered what other secrets the forbidden zones might hold, and what other human vessels might someday emerge from impossible places with impossible abilities. For in a galaxy of ancient, established species with cautious, incremental technological progress, humanity's reckless experimentation had achieved what centuries of methodical research could not. Their primitive vessel, through accident and adaptation, had transcended conventional limitations. And somewhere in the spaces between reality, Captain Dax and his evolving ship continued their journey, neither fully human nor machine, but something entirely new. Something that had learned the greatest lesson of all, that true survival comes not from strength or power, but from the ability to change. The end.